David Paventi, a banker from Charlotte, North Carolina, never expected anything out of the ordinary on his business trip to New York City. It was September 11, 2001. He found himself on the 81st floor of the World Trade Center's North Tower. His company had a new office there. Little did he know, this day would be etched in his memory forever. The previous day had been shrouded in fog, so thick that someone had remarked on how planes could possibly navigate through it to reach the airports. Now the sun shone brightly, painting a picture of a perfect late summer day. Paventi and his colleagues were gearing up for their morning meeting. The sudden violent jolt that shook the building was completely unexpected. Paventi's first thought, an earthquake. The light fixture above their conference table swayed ominously. He instinctively took cover under the table. His co-workers, however, immediately jumped up and ran out of the room. Following his colleagues, Paventi started down the stairwell. It was already crowded, yet an eerie silence hung in the air, a stark contrast to the usual cacophony of New York City. He paused, wanting to make sure everyone from his office had evacuated. He waited for his friend Bob. When Bob caught up, they continued their descent together. The smell of jet fuel grew stronger with each passing floor. The air was thick with it, a constant reminder of the horror that had unfolded above them. The gravity of the situation began to sink in as they descended. This was no ordinary fire. This was something much bigger, much more sinister. As they made their way down the crowded stairwell, they encountered a group of people huddled around a man. He was badly burned. The sight was a grim reminder of the devastation above. Despite the danger they themselves were in, people were helping each other. It was a glimmer of hope in the midst of chaos. The sheer number of people trying to escape made the descent painfully slow and arduous. Each step was a reminder of the immense distance they had to cover. Paventi and Bob considered trying a different staircase, hoping for a faster route down, but the uncertainty kept them on their current path. Around the 30th or 40th floor, their pagers started buzzing incessantly. Messages about a plane hitting their building filled their screens. Then, news came in about a second plane hitting the South Tower. The world as they knew it was crumbling around them. Reaching the lobby was a relief, but the scene that greeted them was one of utter chaos and destruction. Windows were blown out, shattered glass littered the floor, debris was everywhere. There was a palpable sense of urgency in the air. People were rushing towards the exits, desperate to escape the nightmare. A law enforcement officer, his voice a beacon of authority in the chaos, directed them towards safety. They ran without looking back, following the stream of people. As they fled, they narrowly avoided a cloud of smoke billowing towards them, a chilling reminder of the destruction they were escaping. The once familiar streets of New York City were now a scene of panic and devastation. Getting off Manhattan was a challenge. Subways were out of the question. Paventi and Bob walked to the nearest bridge, their hearts pounding with each step. They couldn't escape the horrifying sight of the South Tower collapsing behind them, a cloud of dust and debris engulfing the skyline. Amidst the fear and uncertainty, a glimmer of hope. A good Samaritan, recognizing their plight, picked them up in his car. They eventually made their way to Long Island, and from there, back to the familiar comfort of Charlotte. Paventi's wife, back in Charlotte, had been anxiously awaiting any news of his safety. The relief in her voice when he finally called was palpable. He was safe. He was alive. The events of 9/11 left an indelible mark on David Paventi's soul. In the years that followed, he experienced bouts of anxiety. Loud noises would startle him, transporting him back to that fateful day. He received his scorched wallet and cards a year or two later, tangible reminders of the terror he had escaped. But 9/11 also brought forth a profound sense of gratitude for his survival. He would never forget the first responders who selflessly rushed into danger, risking their lives to save others. He would carry the memory of those who lost their lives that day in his heart forever. The anniversary of 9/11 is a time for reflection. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of freedom and the sacrifices made to protect it. It's a time to remember the nearly 3,000 lives lost and the countless others forever changed by the events of that day. And most importantly, it's a time to cherish the freedoms we often take for granted and to stand united in the face of adversity.